we are joined by Liz Joseph, who's a data scientist, a director, a founding partner of Kerbal, and also a PhD candidate at Harvard. She'll be taking us through one of her tools today. Take it away, Liz.
Thank you, Cindy. So I am a master's candidate. Sorry, I just need to clarify on that. I'm studying education policy, and I'm just going to show you one of the tools that we find really helpful when we do our research. So it just depends on the type of research you want to do, but essentially the introduction is that Ellicit is a tool that helps you to kind of formulate your research question, to build on it, to do some research around, the type of papers that exist, the type of journals that exist, case studies, like RCTs, anything along those lines. It really helps to bring everything together, almost as Google Scholar would do, but it would be a little bit more in-depth and with the use of AI as well. So I will share my screen to walk through this tool with you. And also I just want to, first of all, welcome everyone. I see there's a few folks here. So there's Jennifer, Grady, and some other folks as well, Lee, that I'm seeing. So if you feel like you have any questions, feel free to ask. But I'm just going to go through with it as well. All right, so I'm just going to go from the beginning, really, just take you from the start. I've got some research I've populated in just so we can sort of see the end result as well. So one of my favorite things to look at is fund paper. So what you really can do is that if you're faced with a topic that you'd love to research, one of the ways in which you can do that is to click Find Papers, and you can type your question in here. So in the background, it's going to use AI to be able to pull all these resources together. I believe it's got about 500,000 case studies, and I want to get this right. It's probably got around 1 second. It should have around 5 million research papers along those lines, and I will clarify that in a second. But yeah, essentially it just searches a lot of clinical trials. Clinical trials is about 500,000. In terms of actual papers, I believe it should be around the figure of 138 million papers. So you're dealing with quite a large database, and it's always very helpful to have that start. You can always balance it as well. So we balance it, or at least when I do my research, I balance it with Google Scholar. There's a tool called Hollis as well, and some other libraries as well that the university offers. And this gives you a really nice comprehensive overview. So if we think about a topic that's maybe impacting the world today, so if we think about how many people are displaced in the world due to war, right? I love this feature that it has here, because then it evaluates the strength of your question. Sometimes you're not really sure how to word your question, so whether you want to word it in a causal way. So causal meaning that how does this item impact another item? Is it the cause of this item? You don't know if you want to sort of put it or question it in a quantitative or qualitative way either. So this helps you to kind of understand whether you're asking a good question or if you could consider asking it a different way. And so you can also play around with this. So you could maybe hover over it and say, okay, well, if I want to kind of be more specific, I could change the question to how many people were internally displaced due to armed conflict globally in 2023. So that really gives you, when you're doing research, you want to be as specific as possible. And so you want to really focus on and limit your scope to the research that you're doing so that you can answer a specific question. And this tool helps you to do that. If you also look around the displacement type, maybe you want to look at a specific, like I mentioned, scope. It might give the question of the prevalence of cross-border refugee displacement versus armed conflict. There might be two different angles we might look at. If we look into the type, maybe even in region, so this could be for comparative studies. So if you want to compare, maybe displaced people within the sub-Saharan Africa context versus the European context, you can almost start to have that comparative study as well. And then also, if you're looking in search of clarity within a specific period of time or within a research question, we can also look at trends. And if you want to get it a little bit more quantitative, this would also be very helpful. So if you let's maybe go with this question, and you submit that. Then it's going to do a little bit of it's probably semantic searching and index searching and putting all this information together, but it's bringing all this information together in the back end from all these sources. And so you've got two different split screens, right? So you've got actually three with the menu palette on the left-hand side, and you've got the one in the center and the one on the right-hand side. So the one on the right-hand side is your chat box. This is really cool because it allows you to, I'm probably going to do this. It allows you to then interact with the paper, so you can ask a few questions, right? So let's do that. The nice thing as well is that you'd be able to see the high-level answer that it's giving, right? So the answer we're getting here is that, displacement has increased dramatically, and it exceeded certain levels, specifically in these regions. And here's the few papers that you can kind of correlate this with. So it's got some great global reports that we can look at. Maybe let's ask the question of where was it most prevalent, right? This shouldn't take too long to answer. It's about 12 seconds, and then based on that, it's giving the Middle East and South America as the conflict-induced displacement areas. And so these are quite nice questions. I mean, if you want something more specific, you could get, you can prompt engineer a little bit better, but this is really, really great. I also love this feature for editing columns. So with this, you can just add, you can either look at these specific columns that you want to add, or you can add your own column. So you could say, actually, now I just want to know countries. So how many countries are facing displacement? And you can just add it as a column that you'd like to see and interact with. Okay. Now if we focus on the center, with the center, okay, so with the center, it's got a lot of functionality. It also starts off with a nice table. So this kind of view, I think, is quite helpful. But so you can obviously then, as you would be able in Google Scholar as well, to kind of filter it based on. Someone just unmuted, but I'll continue. So based on citation, based on title, etc. And also you can just search for specific keywords that you want to look at. So for example, I don't know, we looked at the Middle East, so perhaps let's say Middle East here. Okay, it says two sources coming up, but all right, there we go. It filtered it down, which is quite amazing. So you'll see that without it filtered, we've got about 10 sources, and you can just filter on with the keyword. Okay, the filtering works pretty cool. And then we have additional filters as well. So you can see that you might want the ones that only have PDFs available to view and read. And you can then export those PDFs if you want to, or export that research work. So we can also filter on that. And then we can filter on the publication date, journal quality, whether it's high or low quality kind of journal, the type of study we want to do. Like I mentioned, RCTs, we want to do longitudinal studies. Maybe you want papers that, cover, when they follow students for a long period of time, when they follow displaced people for long periods of times, and those kinds of studies will be available as well. You might want a systematic review or meta-analysis with bunches and bunches of research that's been done in one journal, one paper, one book, and you'll have all that meta-analysis available as well. So as you can see here, we also what's also available is the keyword aspect, and so that's also available to look into. But if we look straight onto this here, we'll have the title of the paper, that we're looking into high level. And this is really, really, really cool, because if, let's say, for example, you want to, add your specific column in here and then have a view of it. One of the important things to understand is, okay, well, I want to understand, we usually get this in the abstract, but I'd like to understand, say, for example, what was the result? What was the method, the research method that was used? And, what was how many people did they, what was the sample size? How many people did they actually manage to interview? How many people did they manage to interact with, observe, etc.? So you could have all this information in here and almost compare the papers and the methods that were used to kind of review the quality of the paper for yourself before you use it in your research. And this view just is really helpful for that, for the tabular form. Now, some of the features I won't show today because they are locked behind a paywall, but I think it's actually quite useful enough already. So if you have a look at chapter papers, you can upload your own sources of information and just have a casual conversation with them. I think a lot of people like using tools nowadays that are more, podcast, chat, flashcard kind of enabled, because you want to explore different ways to interact with the content. And so chat is one of the really great ways to do that. And so you can upload your papers and you'll be able to find them here at the library. So you can just, everything you've uploaded, you can have it as a collection, so that when you want to refer to it back, and it'll be available here. Those that have done research back in the days before these kinds of tools know that it was quite a nightmare to stack all your papers. You had to print them out and keep them in bunches at your desk, at your table. So all the researchers had multiple white papers on their desks, right? And you're trying to keep track of everything. But nowadays we don't have to do that. We can just keep them in our collection. Right. So then one of the other things as well is the research agent. So you can do quite a lot with this. You can create a table, generate slides, draft your report, etc. So there's quite a few ways you can play around with this feature. And then I believe, yes, you can see either option and you can just filter that. But yes, let's have a quick look at the research agent. And actually, one of the key things here I'm going to mention before that is that if, let's say, you want to actually write your report and say, well, I want to compare, I want to understand the impact of displacement on children. And school. This report feature works in a really cool way. So let's be very specific about it. So what was the impact of forced displacement due to conflict on academic achievement in primary school children? And if we have a look into that, it's going to offer you 3 options. So we only have 1 at the moment. So we'll do a fast, we'll generate report 1. And so with this feature, it's really, really cool because it's then working to put together a little report for you with just high-level important papers to have a look at. And I'm just going to show you the result as it works, because it does take some time to generate the report. You can still have that, you have the timeline, but you also have a picture as well. And you can also look at the resources here and just play around with them. And I don't know why my email address is visible. Okay, so then so the report would then look like this, right? So I pulled a report on how many people exist in Africa. So it gives you like a little nice extract or abstract and some diagrams explaining pretty much how they got to that with the papers. And then you can kind of have a look to see what information you think will be helpful for your research. Now, you obviously need to check in with, your scriptures if you're allowed to use this kind of tool. This was recommended to us by our professor for one of the courses, to just kind of play around with and see what we can get from it. So assuming that you are allowed to use this tool, then you can, to supplement your systematic review and your synthesis, then you can have a quick look into this and get all the data you need. But it's still very advised to do it the old way around. So, going through journals yourself and documenting how you found the data and how you were able to conduct the research so someone else can repeat your research is always better to do. Okay. And yeah, I'm trying to look at the last, we've got 5 minutes. The research agent, this one I'm not too familiar with because I don't use it, but I'd love to understand when we look at war-related okay, so yeah, when we look at this specific topic, we can then say continue with the research agent to kind of play around and see what it does. Right, and I guess similar to the chat function, we'll be able to kind of pull the resources we need together and interact and sort of, I want to say it's more like exploratory analysis and then be able to kind of pull up slide decks, play with the data in a way which you prefer to visualize and understand it. But yes, this is a really, really cool tool. I think that it's definitely a supplementary tool. I don't think it's the main tool for formulating a research question, but I definitely think it's something that you need to kind of, if anything, you need to at least use the report function, I'd say, to form a question and make sure that it's kind of specific. Of course, it's always advised to reach out to your tutors or to the teaching staff and ask them if the question is specific enough or it's if it actually makes sense. But if they're comfortable with you playing around with these kind of tools, then it's also quite helpful to explore different ways and angles you can angle research. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that was helpful in some regard. I would have loved to go in depth with the AI piece, but that's not. I'm not actually sure if they've showed or given information about what happened in the background, but we can always speculate. Yes, and good with your research, and I'm also happy to take some questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz, for that powerful tool you just demonstrated for us. I personally will be using it. So the question we typically get for the tools that we discuss and display here, can we use it offline?
Oh, that's interesting. I have experience being able to use it offline. But actually, I'm gonna check, and then I'm gonna comment on the video on YouTube just to confirm if it can be used offline. But that's a good question.
Yes, and then we also have a question from Kristen. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. She asked if this is a free version. This is the free version, correct?
Correct. Yes, you just need to sign it, but it's got some limited features. But yes, I think it's actually good enough with the limited version here.
This is great. All right. Feel free, guys, to unmute yourself and ask a question. All right. I think we've had a good time. Hopefully, we'll see you before the end of the year. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us during your break. Enjoy your semester that you're going into, and good luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Everyone, have a good day. Goodbye.